It says that the whole reason that the world was created was so that Yidden will have free choice to decide to do good or bad, and to have choice either to follow the Yetzer Tov or follow the Yetzer Hara, do Iskafia, or follow Torah mitzvahs. And we say that Hashem created the world so that Yidden will have a Yetzer Hara and Taivos, but still serve the Eibishter and make a Dira B'Tachtonim. So then why do we all daven for Mashiach? If then we all be like robots and we will not have any free choice and we will serve the Eibishter not out of love, but because that is how we are programmed, so to speak.
Freedom of choice is a compliment or an insult? Should we be proud of the fact that we have free choice, or should we be embarrassed? Free choice means I can get really angry and kill you. Am I proud of that? Free choice means if I have a kosher sandwich and a non-kosher sandwich, I can choose to eat the non-kosher one or the cholovakum one. I should be proud of that. What exactly is bechira? Bechira doesn't exist so that I can misbehave. There's nothing exciting about that. Bechira means I can have a relationship with Hashem. How is it that I can have a relationship? Because I can choose Him. I have the bechira to choose Him. What is the alternative? Myself. I can either be into me or I can be into Him. Like in a marriage, a husband can be selfish, he's into himself, or he can be devoted to his wife, he is devoted to her. That's what bechira is for. The Yetzer Hara with sins, that's just a cleaning up process of turning the dark into light, getting all the godliness out of the darkness, out of the evil, out of the Yetzer Hara even. But if we were created to have bechira in order to fight the Yetzer Hara, so are we going to win this fight, or is it going to go on forever? Obviously, we're going to win the fight. And that's when Mashiach will come. So once Mashiach comes, we won't have bechira? Of course we will. It's just that sinning won't be one of the choices. So what will be the choice? Me or the Eibishter? Without Aveira, nothing sinful, just human or godly. So after Mashiach comes, we will have bechira, we will have free choice. We won't be robots. It's just that of all the choices we could make, sin won't be one of them. That will be eliminated. In other words, you don't have to have the possibility of sin in order to have bechira. Does a tzaddik have bechira? He has no Yetzer Hara. So he doesn't have bechira? On the contrary, you're a robot when you become overwhelmed or controlled by your Yetzer Hara or by your Nefesh HaBahamis. So when a person says, I'm hungry, I want to go eat something, is that bechira? Real bechira? Or is that a robot? Sure. I knew it. I knew that sooner or later you're going to get hungry and you're going to have to go eat. You're a robot. You're so predictable. And then you got upset over something I said. I knew it. I push your button and you react. You're such a robot. But imagine a person who is insulted by who somebody insults, but he doesn't get insulted. He's okay with it. Wow. What happened to the robot? You're supposed to get hurt when I insult you. How come you didn't get hurt? Because I'm not a robot. So actually, you stop being a robot when you do what Hashem wants and not how you're programmed to behave. So even in simple examples, you fast on Yom Kippur. Say you're not a robot. Because the programming of a robot dictates that you have to eat every day. You didn't eat all day? But you stopped being a robot. You stayed up all night on Shavuos? Really? Boy, you're not a robot. So after Mashiach comes, when maybe we won't need to eat or we won't need to sleep, we won't be robots? Of course not. That's when we will stop being robots. So tzaddikim have free choice, but their choices are pretty choices. The choice is, should I do something good or should I do something better than good? You know, you have two apples and you have to make a choice. Which apple do you want? So sometimes the choice is a shiny, ripe, healthy apple or a fermented, overly ripe apple that is already getting wormy. Well, that's a choice. Not really much of a choice. I mean, who eats a rotten apple? So when you have two very good-looking apples, now it's not a choice? Of course it's a choice, but the options are nicer. You have a choice between two healthy apples. So after Mashiach comes, our fixing of the world, elevating the Yetzer Hara, getting rid of sin will have succeeded, because it must. So that will no longer be the challenge. The challenge will become, will you do an ordinary mitzvah or will you do a mitzvah lishma? So the choices will just be prettier. We won't stop having choice.
Does Hashem need our mitzvahs?
That is a very, very painful question, because for some reason, people have gotten it into their heads that you're supposed to believe that Hashem does not need your mitzvah. And I can't believe that's even possible and how that happened. I mean, imagine. The Eibishter comes to you and says, listen up, don't work on Shabbos. And you walk away saying, he doesn't need that. How do you do something like this? The Eibishter gave us mitzvahs. He doesn't need, he demands that we do it. He punishes you if you don't do it, but he doesn't need it. That is so absurd. I can't believe this. But I want to tell you something even more interesting. People who get into Avodah Zarah, idol worship. What is wrong with idol worship? What's wrong with idol worship is you believe that the sun that keeps the world warm, that keeps the world alive, that makes things grow, has its own will and its own agenda. It shines when it wants to. It won't shine if it doesn't want to. Therefore, you have to bring it a korban. You have to make nice. You have to plead with the sun. please, don't get angry. Why is that Avodah Zarah? Because the son has no agenda. The son doesn't have feelings that you have to cater to. So it's a false God. You say it controls its light, it doesn't control its light. Or in different words, the son doesn't need anything. How can the son need anything? It's just an object. And the same with every Avodah Zarah. You worship thunder, you worship plants, you worship animals. What are you doing? The animal has no needs. So what are you giving it? What are you bringing it sacrifices for? It doesn't need it. To turn around and say the Eibishter doesn't need anything, that's Avodah Zarah. We make fun of Avodah Zarah. What are people worshiping? A statue that doesn't see, doesn't hear, doesn't care, doesn't talk. Are you saying the same thing about the Eibishter? He doesn't care, he doesn't notice, it's nothing. Nothing means anything to him, even mitzvahs. It makes no sense. If he doesn't need the mitzvah, then why does he demand it of us? Just to see if we're going to listen? That is so nasty. Can you imagine your father telling you to run around the block? You say, why? I just want to see if you're going to listen. That's so cruel. Maybe he's giving us the mitzvahs because doing mitzvahs is very good for us. He's being kind to us. He's doing us a favor. So let me ask you a simple question. If I don't need you to do me a favor, but I ask you to do me a favor anyway, when you do me that favor, what have you accomplished? Are you a better person? Are you a better friend? No, because you just did something that I don't need and you don't need. How does a mitzvah make you a better person if it's not even important to Hashem? The reason a mitzvah makes you better is because it brings you closer to Him. How does it bring you closer to Him if He doesn't even need it? So then people say, well, He doesn't need it, but He does want it. So if you do what He wants, that brings you closer to Him. That's also very interesting. He really does want you to do the mitzvah. He wants tefillin. He wants Shabbos. And that's why if you keep Shabbos and you put on tefillin, you're closer to Him. Because you're doing what He wants. But can you imagine the Eibishter wants things that He doesn't need? What kind of childish Eibishter do you have? A mature human being doesn't want things he doesn't need. It's childish. So if He wants it, he wants it seriously, infinitely. And He's always wanted it because He's eternal. You don't wake up one morning and decide He wants tefillin. So let me give you a quick mashal. And people who don't learn Chassidus actually believe this. A mother asks her son to bring her tea. Make me tea. 3 times a day. Every day. The son makes his mother tea 3 times a day, every day, for 50 years. At the end of 50 years, he discovers that his mother never drinks tea. She doesn't like it. She doesn't need it. She doesn't drink it, ever, ever. So he says to his mother, what was that all about? You asked me to make you tea? You don't even drink it? And the mother says, of course I don't drink it. Tea is not important. Or relationship, so that we could get closer. Sounds good? Any mother who does that should be fired. If I ask you to do something I don't need, am I bringing you closer to myself? Or am I keeping you out of my life? Like if you're a nudnik and you keep running after me and I want to get rid of you, what do? I ask you to do something that I am not involved in at all to get you out of my life. So the mother who asks her son to bring tea that she doesn't need and doesn't drink, she's not inviting him into her life. She's keeping it out. She's keeping him out of her life. It's like, go see if it's raining outside. That's bringing you close? No. But people actually say, the Eibishter gave us mitzvahs. He doesn't need them. It's just to bring us closer to him. That is so ridiculous. That's not closer, that's further. And here's the proof. Imagine that this son has a brother. The mother asked the other brother to bring her coffee because she loves coffee. You see the difference? So the first son, she kept out of her life by making him prepare tea, which she doesn't care for, she doesn't need it, she doesn't drink it. It's not part of her life. So if tea is not part of her life, then how is making tea bringing the son into her life? The other son, she asked to bring coffee. Coffee is her life. So by making the coffee, he is involved in his mother's life. So that's what we say in the Bar Mitzvah Maimer. The mitzvahs that the Eibishter asks us to do, he does himself. It's coffee, it's not tea. The mitzvahs that we do is the Eibishter's coffee, not his tea. So he really does want us involved in his life. And his life is tefillin and Shabbos and Shefer and Kedusha. That's his life. And where do we see it? Shabbos is such an obvious example, where the Eibishter says clearly, I rest on the 7th day, because I created the world in 6 days, and on the 7th I rest. Okay, good for you. What do you want from me? Why are you telling me to rest on Shabbos? I'm telling you to join me when I'm keeping Shabbos. Keep Shabbos with me. During the 6 days of the week when I'm creating the world, create it with me. Fix the world, improve the world, be my partner in creation. But on Shabbos, I'm not creating. So stay with me. When I'm not creating, I'm resting, then rest with me. When I am creating, create with me. When I'm putting on tefillin, put on tefillin with me. On Shabbos, I don't put on tefillin, so don't put on tefillin. So every mitzvah is an invitation to step into God's life. Because mitzvahs, that's his life. You want to get closer to him? Do what he does. It's not tea, God forbid. So that's one of the things that Chassidus brought into the Jewish world. People were starting to believe that the only purpose of mitzvahs is obedience. The Eibishter doesn't need your mitzvah, it's like tea, but if you listen and you obey, you'll get credit. So the guy who makes tea for his mother for 50 years, boy, that's obedience. That's Kabbalah soil. In fact, who do you obey? Somebody you can't get close to. So if mitzvah means closeness, they're missing it completely. Sorry if that was a long answer.
That was perfect. If somebody was raised from and now has doubts and questions after studying about the age of the universe and evolution, is the best way to answer him to tell him to, by studying those subjects and answer and what science cannot explain, or is there a better approach?
There's a better approach. Whatever science can explain is not really important. I know this sounds a little shocking, but it's true. Science is trying to explain how the world exists. Where did it come from? How did it happen? The truth is, who cares? Suppose we never figure out how the world came into existence. Will it make any difference? Make any difference? It's true. Many people believe in God because it's the only explanation for how the world came into existence. But that's not Jewish. For the non-Jew, who is God's creation, and to the non-Jew, the creator is everything. It's interesting or important to know, how did the creator create his creation? But really, if you knew how, what would it do for you? Then you'll go and create another creation? What are you going to do with that information? So it doesn't matter what science says. There was a big bang, a little bang, 3 bangs. What's the difference? For us, the Eibishter is our father. The Eibishter is our king, not just a creator. So what do we want to know about him? How he created the world? I really don't care. I mean, your mother makes you dinner. You want to know how she made the steak? What's the difference? What you're really focusing on is why she made the steak. She made the steak because she knows you like it. That's an important thing to know. So we really don't care how God made the world. What we're interested in is, why did he make the world? What does he want? What does he need? How he did it? He's a creator. I'm not. I don't need. How did the painter paint this painting? I don't know. So really, it doesn't matter what science says. It's fake news that if you know how the world was created, you don't need to believe in God. One has nothing to do with the other. The reason we're interested in God is because he cares about me, not he's so talented that he can create me. So don't mix the two. People trying to figure out how the world came into existence, it's interesting. We happen to know how. That's how it happened. But that's it. It's a short parsha in Bereshis, and then we change the subject. Who cares? But why he created the world, whoa, that's the whole Torah. So don't get into a debate between science and religion. They're completely different agendas. And the scientist will never figure out why Hashem created the world, because only he can tell us. And where did he tell us? In the Torah. When? Shavuos.
What should I do if I greatly enjoy music, but I don't feel that Jewish music has enough to offer?
Enjoy whatever music you enjoy, as long as it doesn't degrade you. In other words, if it's really good music, not junk music like on the radio. If you have an appreciation for music and you realize that Jewish music is different, good for you. So listen to good music. I mean, it's like saying I'm interested in art and painting. Jewish paintings, a Sefer Torah, a Malach, okay. So perfect your talent or your appreciation of art. But real art, not junk. So some people say, but wait a minute, Goyish music is klippa. Yeah, it is. It's klippas noiga. Unless it's vulgar, unless it's evil, it's klippas noiga. So should you be doing it? Eating lunch is klippas noiga. Having a snack in the middle of the day is certainly klippas noiga. Somebody once asked the Rebbe, what should I do with my son, my mitzvah boy? He's hung up on baseball. And the Rebbe said, baseball is arena taiva. Arena taiva, which means it's klippas noiga. Not so terrible. So of course, klippas noiga also has to be elevated to kedusha. Like lunch, like a snack, an ice cream, a candy bar, a soda. It's all klippas noiga. So why are we so overly sensitive about non-Jewish music? So the answer is because Jewish music affects your mind, whereas a can of soda only affects your stomach. I wouldn't make such a big deal about it. Yes, it's klippas noiga, but all of life is klippas noiga. So if it helps you, if it inspires you, if it makes your day better, then it probably helps you do mitzvahs and learn what you have to learn also. So you're elevating klippas noiga, just like lunch.
What's wrong with Shazal? Is it really that bad? What about different extents?
What's Shazal?
Shechvazera levatala.
Oh. What's bad about it? two things. First of all, the tumah that it creates is really nasty. It's a much greater tumah than what's created by, let's say, carrying on Shabbos. Carrying on Shabbos violates the holiness of Shabbos. It's not tumah. The act itself is not, during the week you're allowed to do it. But something you're never allowed to do is obviously much worse. So eating on Yom Kippur is not as bad as Zera Levatola, because eating is allowed every other day of the week. So the tumah lev that it causes, it destroys you. Even medically, it's known that it destroys a person. Weeds you, it leads to depression, because eventually you're embarrassed by it. So it's destructive of you. But more than that, it really delays the coming of Mashiach. Because the Zera Levatola affects a neshama. Just like when a man and a woman are having a baby, it affects a neshama, obviously. It causes a neshama to come down into this world, into a body, and be born into the world. But even when there's no baby, from wherever it is in Shamayim, towards earth, but you don't let it get born. So it's like a neshama without a guf, mashpia without a makabel. What's going to happen to that neshama? Now it has to be fixed. It has to be healed. It has to be, there's a job now for Kedusha to clean up this mess. That takes time. And that delays the coming of Mashiach. So you look in the Igris, wherever the Rebbe talks about it, the Rebbe says it's terrible because it's ma'akiv de geula. It delays Mashiach. But part of the Eitzah's strategy is that it gets you to do the Aveda, and then it gets you to be miserable about the Aveda. So the Rebbe's Hayra, the Rebbe's instruction is, if you did commit a sin, that's bad enough. Don't let the Yitzhak win the whole battle by making you miserable also. So anybody who feels a little discouraged, my mitzvahs, my Yiddishkeit, it's messed up. I'm already deep in Tumah, and therefore my mitzvahs don't count as much. It's not that important. So I'll do another Aveda. It's not that terrible because I'm already into the Aveda. Don't go there. That's worse than the Aveda itself. So really, the Eitzahara gets you to do an Aveda, not for the sake of the Aveda. It's so that it can make you miserable about the Aveda. So what happens if you did commit the Aveda? Do 10 mitzvahs just in spite. Don't let it become you. You are not an Aveda. And therefore your mitzvahs count just as much. Your learning counts just as much. Somebody asked the Rebbe, I'm so deep in Tumah, I don't see why I'm allowed to learn Chassidus. And the Rebbe said, no matter how serious your Aveda is, never stop learning Chassidus. So don't let it discourage you. Don't let it Don't let it distract you. Be bigger and stronger than the Aveda and the Yetzer Hara and the depression that it's trying to introduce. So Hashem b'simcha means even if you did an Aveda and you think you have no reason to be b'simcha. So the Rebbe once said to a college student, if you were really as bad as you say you were, then you should be very happy. And the student said, about what? And the Rebbe said, about the fact that even though you're so bad, the Eibishter loves your mitzvahs.
Is the story about you and a shade-infested woman true? It sounds made up and fictional, nothing personal.
I wish I had that kind of imagination to be able to tell a story. Oh, it acted exactly like that. No exaggerations.
What is the purpose of Hasidus? In other words, what gets accomplished through it?
People who keep mitzvahs and learn Torah and do everything right is like a husband or a wife who obey all the rules. They treat each other decent. They never hurt each other. They never harm each other. They never insult each other. But it's kind of like but deep down inside, they don't feel married. That's how Yiddishkeit is without Chassidus. There's an Eibishter, he tells me to do this, I do it, I don't break rules, I follow rules, I do the mitzvahs, I don't do the Avedis, I learn Torah, it's all very nice and good. But when I do an Aveda, oh, that I do with passion. Then I'm excited, then that's intense. Why should that be? With Chassidus, it's not just you're a good marriage, not just a good roommate. A person can do a mitzvah with the same passion that another person can do an Aveda. Like when Bachrim go on Mivtzayim. It's so amazing. It is so awesome. How did the Rebbe train us, elevate us, inspire us to have such a passion for Avos Yisrael? Nobody else has that. Look around. You won't find it in any yeshiva. Nowhere. Even those yeshivas that do outreach, they do it like a profession. There's no passion. There's no neshama. Chassidus is the neshama of Yiddishkeit. And it's working. That's the good news. We take it for granted. Here you go on Mivtzayim. You meet a Jew, you talk to him, you come back and you're so excited. I met a guy, a karkafta. Amazing, the hashgacha pratis that brought us together, and now he's buying his own tefillin. What are you so excited about? That's Chassidus. So let me tell you the story quickly. By the Kindas HaShluchim years ago, a couple of years ago, the speaker was from Wimbledon, England. And he was telling a story about a phone call that he got, telling him that a man passed away, a Jewish man, He was married to a non-Jewish woman at a non-Jewish family, and they're going to cremate him. Instead of burying him, they're going to cremate him. So he got involved, and he tried to convince the family not to cremate him. And there was a big argument and a big fight and a long story. But somehow in the end, he succeeded, and the family agreed to have him buried properly. So there was a writer, a journalist of a Jewish paper from California. He was a guest at the kinus. So when he got home, he wrote an article about the kinus. And this is what he said. He said, people wonder, what is the secret of Chabad? What gives them the success that they have? Why are they so popular? He says, I found out on the inside. He said, I was sitting in a room with 4,000 rabbis. Most of them have to raise their own funds. So they have to do fundraising activities. They have to cover the bank. They're always under pressure. They always need more money. They need more supporters. They need more activities. They've got so much on their plate that they need to do. And they're all sitting there listening to a guy talking about a Jew that they never met, who already died, who married out. And the only question was, will he be buried like a Jew or not? And 4,000 rabbis held their breath, hoping that in the end, he was not cremated, but buried Jewishly. And when it turned out that he was, 4,000 rabbis sighed with relief and pleasure that a Jew they never met, who was married out, who had already died someplace in England, was buried properly. It's as if every one of those rabbis had just been given a $100,000 donation. That's the secret of Chabad. Nobody else has that. Only from Chassidus. Avos Yisrael, even for a Jew you never met, who married out, who already died. And the Avos Yisrael continues. That is the blessing and the miracle of Chassidus.